Okay, let's make a start, guys. Thank you very much for joining the bulletin. This is normally we have our STB Bulletin in January. We are a bit later in getting this information out. I think we're about 7-8 months later than normal. And it's just as we were trying to collect a lot of the information as things are progressing through the year. Obviously, we're at a very turbulent time, so it's just trying to get as much information packed into this for everybody, so that we're all prepared for the upcoming season. So kicking us off, just want to have a brief moment to have a chat about COVID. Obviously, COVID's been an adversely affected thing for us all. We've all experienced it in some way or another. And as a federation, we've absolutely found this a difficult and challenging period as well. And we do believe that the impact of COVID will be a long-term thing, and we're definitely going to be feeling this for some time. As we move through the year and into the new season of bowling, we will continue to work in accordance with the government guidelines to make competitive bowling safe and enjoyable for everybody and welcoming for all. So we have a very packed agenda today. We're going to be discussing our objectives for the next year, the organisation and governance that's currently in place at the moment. Obviously, the AGM, we're going to be announcing the AGM date today. We'll be discussing our membership, how you can take out your memberships, when you'll need to get your memberships, and any of the membership benefits involved there. Any of the upcoming changes to rules with regards to bowling balls, those will be in effect for the ranking tournaments that are coming up. Then we're going to pass over and talk about the competitive roadmap back, as well as National League, which you'll have seen flyers popping around the place for that as well. We'll then discuss the STB calendar, which I'm sure many of you will be very interested to hear. So we have that pinned up until 2022, end of 2022, and then we'll discuss each of our sections that we've been managing and catering for over the last little while: the seniors, the women, the men, and a new division, the under-25s. And then we'll discuss some of the underlying landscape changes with regards to IBFs, which we'll go over. And then lastly, it's the international calendar, Triple Crown, and coaching aspects. So let's get started. Firstly, with our 2021-2022 objectives. So we normally like to get out objectives for what we're actually planning throughout the year. So we have 3 main objectives that we're working towards over the next year. First thing is obviously coaching, getting ourselves back into the idea of coaching both as coaches and as athletes. So we have clinics that are going to be run. We have a new coach development program that we're going to be discussing today as well. And lastly, open coaching courses for 2022 for athletes to be able to get involved there. Obviously, growing the sport is a very, very important aspect for us. It's a primary objective this year. One of those is going to be the National League, and we obviously have our under-25 tour, and that's certainly not going to be, we're not going to be just stopping there. That's obviously what our primary objective is growing the sport, and especially after the hard times we've had and experienced with the pandemic, it's going to be even more vital. And then lastly, we have our back to bowling objectives that we're looking towards. We've already started to see fun tournaments pop up, and we're going to be continuing those, and as well as announcing our competitive roadmap that Moira will chat about just a little bit later. So moving on to organisation and governance. As it stands at the moment, we have most of our board members are on this call. We have Stephen, Louise, Kenny, and we obviously have Moira. And so they are open to answer any questions at the moment. Our current standing as our officer positions as chairman, we have Kenny Jameson, and as officers for the treasury position, we have Jennifer McQueen in the interim up until the AGM. From a sort of organisation level, we have a few different areas here. So Moira and myself are heavily involved within the youth sector. James is obviously continuing as our technical liaison for all things technical and things like that, centre relations. And we also have James and Stephen working in the adult sections, getting everything prepared for the new adult season coming up. Louise is very much heavily involved with the seniors and the ladies here, so she's taking on a fantastic mantle there. And then lastly, we have myself, Kenny, and Moira working in the sports development area. And I should also mention here, while on paper this is kind of what it looks like, we're all very much heavily involved in all areas of this. So we all have good discussions on all subjects here. Lastly, I just want to mention the sort of transition out. I think Jennifer and Sheila have now put in effectively their retirement from bowling and from the organizational aspect of things. I'm sure we'll still enjoy seeing them around at all the tournaments and everything. So we just want to wish them a very well farewell and a big thank you to all the work that they've done over the last very, very long time. So they've done fantastic there. So moving on to the AGM. Our AGM will be held at 2 p.m. on the 3rd of October in Deer Park, Livingston. And this will be an in-person AGM. As current restrictions, we can see that in current restrictions, that's a viable option. A reminder here that while attending the AGM, you will be required to have a current membership for that. That's to vote on any of the AGM matters. During the AGM, we will be covering things like voting rights, the voting of board positions, reports from each of the divisions, and finances. So that will all be covered there. There are board positions available as it currently stands. There are a few board members that will be stepping down this year. So please, watch out for some communication that'll be out there about how you can get involved there and how you can submit your application for a board position. That's going to be really crucial in helping the sport for the future. So please get involved there. So from the membership side, we now have our online membership platform that is now in use. Details of that you can find on the STB website. There are a few links there that will direct you to the new membership platform. If you are not aware, it's called stb.azov.com. So please make your way over there as adults, and you can start to register for the platform. With regards to youths and clubs, there is a separate process for that. It's currently a manual process, so please do just email in your details. If you haven't already done so, please email in your details of the bowlers that you have and their sort of dates of birth and ranges and everything. We'll start to process those and set them up in the membership platform. Any members that have taken out a membership within the past year, that membership will be carried over and rolled over onto the next year, so there is no additional payment for this membership. That will automatically take place for you. There's nothing that you'll need to do there. We have worked very heavily within the past couple of years to improve the member benefits that you will see. So as part of that, we do now have that online membership platform that I was just talking about there. That allows you to go in there, manage your account, set up your details properly, and keep them up to date. One of the issues in the past was just trying to keep up-to-date information with people and reconcile these things. So that is now entirely within your hands. You can go and do that. As part of renewing your membership or taking out a membership, there is the optional benefit of taking out a reward scheme. That reward scheme is offered by our partnership with Azov and Just Go. That is available at £5. That particular reward scheme gives you lots of retail discounts across things, including some of the technology companies like Apple, Next, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of discounts that you can get by taking out that little £5 membership scheme. We also do offer taste cards now as a perk for any full memberships that are taken out, any adult full memberships that are taken out. You will receive details on that within the next couple of months, if not earlier, with regards to how you can start to claim and use that taste card. Taste card is it's a fantastic program that allows you to also take a lot of discounts out from eating places. As bowlers traveling around all the time, it's fantastic to make use of that. So we thought that would be very good to include for you as full members. And lastly, of course, we want to call out our partnership with Viz Sportswear, who've been fantastic sponsor over the last little while, that giving us an exclusive STB 10% discount on all of their product lines. So last little bit from myself before I hand over to Moira, and it's just on the bowling ball rules. So effective as of today, we will be adopting the new bowling ball rules as specified by USB-C specifications. So that is 3 things here. One is no balance holes are now permitted within bowling balls. They've changed some aspects there that would allow for the removal of that balance hole. The second point here is that any two-handed bowlers must scribe the centre of their grip. And the third one is with regards to static weight changes. So please check out, there's a link here, and these bulletin slides will be available afterwards. So there's a link there to check out the specifications with regards to that. And one important thing to note here is, yes, I mean, absolutely, it's taking effect as of today. That does mean that from the ranking tournaments that we're about to announce, that these rules will apply. So I would encourage people to get involved and get those sorted for the new season. So I'm going to hand over to Moira now, who's going to talk about the competitive roadmap.
So hopefully the technology works and I've got control of this. Yes, I have. So in terms of the competitive roadmap, one of the first things we'd like to just point out, in case people aren't aware of it, is TempinCam. So you can have a look for tempincam.com and you'll be able to use any of their tournaments. So the centres that we have in Scotland available for TempinCam are in Ayr or in Murrayfield. You can play virtual battles tournaments across the UK and all across Europe. And fairly recently, we had the first ETBF recognised youth live tournament, which was back in July, and that took place in Murrayfield. And that was actually recognised by ETBF, and it was ETBF medals that were paid out at that tournament. It was technologically quite challenging. I think it's quite new in the roadmap to have as many countries roll on simultaneously. But you could see where that could go in future as another way where we could have that competition with people outside of Scotland without us having to travel so far. So it was you could definitely see the potential for that going forward. In terms of fun and fundraisers tournaments, well, we had already had the ladies and seniors combined fundraiser. That was in July back in Ayr. And certainly that was the first tournament that I had been back at since after lockdown. And it was one of those events where you thought it was just great to see everybody again, see all our bowling friends and family and get back to, people just enjoying bowling again. It was just a fantastic day. And then the Gents Fundraiser, so this is for the Gents EMC team, that's taking place next Sunday, the 12th of September, and that's at Murrayfield. So if you're interested in coming back to bowling, you've not done that yet, then there's still actually opportunity to get into that competition there next weekend. And then after that, before we get into ranking events at all for the youth, we've got what we're calling Youth and New Adult Fun Tournament. And that's on the 26th of September, and that's taking place in Stirling. Now, the reason we're calling this Youth and New Adult is because our youths go up to 18. And I think when we were in the lockdown and we all stopped very abruptly, we didn't know the last tournament was going to be the last tournament for a year and a half. And so we wanted to bring back the opportunity for all the bowlers that were then part of that under 18 group back at the time. So that tournament's open to 19 and under, and that should take in the bulk of the youth group that was part of it before we went into lockdown. And then National League, some of you may have seen this, it's been promoted across our social media channels, and that's starting in October, and it's open to all, so you don't need to be an STB member to be part of that. We've got some slides a bit further on that will go into that in more detail. So moving on then to rankings and selection criteria. We had quite a long discussion and debate about this in the board as to how to make this fair. So in terms of rankings, the rankings will roll on from where we stopped. So we last played, I think the last game, the last tournament we played was early in 2020. We will roll on from there. And then as we add a new tournament, we'll eventually drop off each of those old tournaments from before. And we felt that this was the best we could do so that that wasn't lost, that time that people bowled and invested in their bowling and their game, etc., and came along to the ranking tournaments was not lost. But then we're gradually going to then be replacing those games and replacing those rankings with more and more recent rankings. So that should then give us recent form. And then in terms of selection criteria, pretty much as it was before, the selection continues using bowlers' performance in the rankings. Adults will be the best of 6 of the last 8 tournaments, and youths would be the best 5 of the last 6 tournaments. The adults and youths will still align. However, going forward, they may not fall the weekend immediately after. So I think what we tried to do before was adults on one weekend, your youths would be the next again weekend. Going forward, that might be adults skip a week or sometimes 2 weeks before we then get to the youth equivalent. Okay. Moving on into National League. So just quickly around National League, a National League is open to all. You don't need to, as I said before, you don't need to be an STB member. It's a trios format, and you can register up to 8 bowlers per team. And the way this is going to work, and this was actually a concept when we were thinking, well, we're going to be coming back to bowling centres, and we would maybe have some restriction about numbers and when we could bowl and how many we could have in at any given time. So this was a really good way to get us back into competitive bowling, meet your people from different centres, and do a home and away match. So these are then matches that are made up every month against a schedule, and you would do either a home or away within that 28 days. It will be average divisions with a handicap. Registration fee will be required, and we'll send out more details later this month. And then every 28 days, you would have another match to play. We've got a link there, so when this comes out to everybody, you've got the link there for link.bowling.scot/National League, and that'll give you all the details how to register your team. Now we're moving on to the STB calendar. So we spent the last, God knows how long, trying to put this calendar together. So what we've got here is the next 2 slides gives us 2021 and 2022. So if you actually take, we're starting from, if we looked at September, and anybody that's a senior with us would maybe have been at a trial today. So there was a trial today, and then next week we've got the fundraiser, and the week after that, on the 26th, we've got the youth fun singles in Stirling, as we talked about. I'm not going to read through all of this, but if you're reading it, the key at the bottom is A is for adults. So if you're seeing anything that's got a little A in it, single and A is your adults. Youth is Y. If it's Dunfermline, or it would say dump, Hollywood Bowl Dunfermline. Ayr would say Ayr, and MISC is Murrayfield Indoor Bowling Centre. So as you can see, we've got October through to May there. What we've got in terms of ranking events is singles are in October, doubles are in November for adults, and into December for youth. We skip January, beginning of February, then we've got trios. March, we're doing 4s, and May, we're then doing what we're calling the ECC qualifier. So what we're basically doing with the ECC qualifier is we no longer, and when we get to that bit, you'll see that we no longer have the World Cup qualifier, So we're going to use the World Cup qualifier format for the ECC instead. And we'll be looking at just exactly how that's going to come together. Moving on to June then, and then we've got what we're calling national championships. We're still just working out what that format's going to look like, but similar to where we had the nationals before, we'll have the national championships. Across July and August, then we'll have some senior trials into September, our trios, and then we've got the Scottish Open, which is then October of 2022. And then into November, but that's as far as we've got. We thought we would take it out to a year come October. Okay, so that's the calendar. And as I say, there's quite a few TBCs there. We're in conversation with a few of the centres, and we hope over the next couple of months then we'll have all of those populated and all those TBCs will be confirmed. Moving on to seniors. So the seniors were probably one of the last teams to go away internationally. So this was in January 2020. They were away in Vienna in Austria. The men in the team were Benny, Jack, Alan and Andy. And the women were Julia, Liz, Margaret and Louise, who was also the team manager. Overall, the team performed extremely well, tough conditions, and it was fierce competition. Alan, Andy, Julia qualified for the Masters, but we couldn't have done without the fantastic support and contributions from the entire team. The men doubles medalists were Bernie and Andy, and the men's Masters medalist was Andy. And overall, it was a very successful event. And the quote there from Louise is, I was very proud of the team's performance as a team manager, player and a board member. Who unfortunately is out tonight. So she is listening, but she's out and she's too much noise in the background for her to be able to talk to us. But she'll be able to give you a lot more details when we're at the AGM. Moving on to women in sport. So the women in sport, this has been one of those, another tournament that's been absolutely scuppered, I think you could say, because of the pandemic. And so the 2020 EWC has been postponed and postponed and postponed again. So the team that are actually going away in beginning of February is Laura, Rebecca, Alana, Julia, Alison and Tanya. And they're going off to Aalborg in Denmark at the beginning of February. They've got another fundraiser planned for the 28th of November. And then we're also, Louise and the ladies are looking to try and organise some ladies fun tournaments. So any ladies that are out there that maybe used to bowl and don't bowl so much now, or would like to be involved in ladies bowling, you'll start to see those dates coming through, and we would encourage everybody to get involved in that if you possibly can. Moving on then to the men, so we talked a bit about the ladies, so we'll talk a bit about the men. And again, the men's team for EMC that was in 2020 was again affected by COVID, and that's been postponed twice, I think. And that team goes out in January to Helsinki, and that's Brian, Stephen, Kenny, James, Jack and Chris, and that's the fundraiser that's next Sunday at Murrayfield. And moving on to Stephen now. Stephen's going to pick up on under 25s.
Thank you, Moira. So we're doing an under 25 tour, which is going to start on the early 2022. We're going to be doing a tournament in November as a pre-tournament to try and get the youths who have just came out of the juniors, who don't feel they're confident enough to play with adults, to get them to get more confidence to play with the adults. There'll be more details on Facebook, and emails will be going out shortly. I'm going to now pass you over to Calvin to the next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So a few sort of landscape changes that we're going to move on to now is about the IBF changes. So most people may have seen some communication, especially on social media, with regards to IBF. And what is IBF? It is the new international governing body of our sport. And we wanted to cover it here because I feel it's a very important topic to discuss, not just what's happening within Scottish bowling, but also what is happening in the rest of the world. So formerly, this would have been known as World Bowling. Most people would have seen this and seen the World Bowling logo around the place. It has been totally revamped with new administration, a new CEO, and it is now called the International Bowling Federation. It governs things both with 9-pin, 10-pin, and para bowling, so we'll certainly be seeing a lot more of that within the future. Now, there are a lot of high-level changes that we want to go into just while we're here. The amount of changes is extensive. We will not have time to cover all of the changes that they are imposing, but we do want to cover some highlighted versions of their changes. So the first thing is with regards to World Championships. They have now simplified the World Championship effectively program of tournaments that are there. Most people would be familiar if you've ever competed at this level with multiple different World Championships. We would have normally singles World Championships. They're both men and women. They would be separate events. We would have an under-18 World Championship. We would have an under-21 World Championship. This has now been simplified into just a single World Championship event for adults and a World Championship event for youths. The team will consist of 4, just as previous. The combined World Championships is no longer anymore. That's just simply called the World Championships now. It will consist of singles, doubles, and trios events, and they have removed the Masters event that you would normally have at the end of the entire World Championship. Instead, they're going to be replacing that with the most valuable athlete, which is effectively an all events medal winner for each of the genders. They have also rationalized and simplified the junior one as well. So there's now no longer a separate under-18 and a separate under-21 event. It's now just simply the IBF Junior World Championship. It will mirror the exact same format as the adult World Championship, and it will run in alternate years. Lastly, most people will be familiar with this one, which is with regards to the World Cup. The AMF World Cup, which was formerly known, that's what was formerly known as. It was sponsored by Quebeca. Quebeca AMF used to run the World Cup. That is now it's now called the IBF World Cup in partnership with Quebeca AMF, and that is quite a drastic overhaul there. So mostly people would be familiar with the format as a single male and a single female that would go away to compete in the World Cup. This is now being changed exclusively to teams of 4, so for both men and women. So it'd be a team of 8 that would be going away to represent Scotland at the World Cup. It is still sponsored by Quebeca. There is still a partnership there, and it'll be held within Quebeca centres. But that is probably the major change, and we are still waiting to hear a bit more information about the format of how that championship will take place. A new event this year that IBF is putting in is the Junior World Cup. This is not an event that we've had before, and it will again mimic the same format as to what the IBF World Cup will be, and it will run in alternate years again with the adult IBF World Cup. A few more little things here. We're kind of not there, and there's still an extensive list that we will make available to all afterwards. Is zone qualifiers. So zone qualifiers, and it's still being discussed at the European level, zone qualifiers will be required for any of the IBF events. So any of the World Championships and World Cups that we would like to go to, we would need to go through zone qualifiers within the European Federation to go to those. And those zone qualifiers have, I think they're still being discussed, and they'll be decided after October this year. Lastly, here we have string pin setters. So one of the most recent news items that IBF sent out was with regards to approving string pin setters for their international events. It's just one thing I wanted to point out there. So moving on to the international calendar. Now the international calendar it's pretty full packed actually over the next couple of years. Moira's already mentioned about the EYLT that's happened in Murrayfield on the 23rd to the 25th of July. We do expect that EYLT tournament to be a recurring theme. I believe ETBF were quite happy with the way the events were ran, and we'll look to have that as a more regular event. We have the EYC coming up, which we are not attending. EYC will be held in 9th to 19th of September in the Netherlands. We have the ECC in Crete, which is where the ETBF Congress meeting will happen, where they will decide on the zone qualifiers. That is happening 25th to the 1st of November. Again, we're not attending that. And for the latter part of the year, we have the World Championships. Now, these World Championships held by IBF are in a different format to what the future World Championships will be. This is more of a kind of one-off event, and we are looking to get a team together for that event. So moving into 2022, we have the EMC team going away to compete in the 2020 EMC in 2022 in the 19th to the 30th of January. Similarly, again, with the women's team, the EWC, the 2020 team will go away to compete in 2022 in February next year. EYC will be in April, and that'll be in Crystal Bowl in France. The Triple Crown will be in Ireland. And there is expected, from what we know at the moment, we do suspect that there will be another EWC in 2022, but we have still to confirm with ETBF when that will take place. It's currently penciled in our calendar as June. The European Senior Bowling Championship, that'll be in Germany in June to July, and this is where we expect to start to see more information coming out about IBF World Cups and World Championships. So there is expected to be one in July and a World Championship in November. We have the Youth Triple Crown in England next year, and we have the Adult Triple Crown in Wales. And lastly, we have the European Senior Championship sometime in 2022, just not quite sure when that will be. So I'm going to pass over to Moira now to discuss the Triple Crown. I think you're on mute, Moira.
So so the team selection dates for 2022. So the seniors tournament is in April in Dublin, and that team will be selected in December at the end of this year. The youth is in August, the usual weekend in August, somewhere in England. We don't know where yet, and that team will be selected in March. That's a little bit later than we normally would, and the reason for that is what we wanted to do is get 4 new tournaments in. So we normally call that team at 6 months before the event. This time it'll be 5 months before, and we'll be really quick to get some training and coaching in at the back of that. We just think to have 4 events before we select a team would get us in a really good place to get the latest form of the best bowlers to go along to that. So that's how that bit's working. And then in the adults, then we typically pick the team for the adults, so that's selected on the rankings at 3 months before, so that would be in June. of 22. A little bit just about the Youth Triple Crown then for 2022. There was quite a lot of discussion before we went into lockdown about the age categories. The age categories were changing. We were going to be dropping out the older section. We had then, because we had started our rankings for that year, we had deferred that decision. And we more recently then have picked this conversation back up again with the other federations. So we've been in conversation with federation reps from Scotland, obviously from us, England and Ireland, and we've just been working with those guys to say, we are really tight on the number of girls coming through, not so much in the younger categories, but in the older ones, in the 18 and under, 21 and under, we're really tight on girls in the sport. When we were talking to Ireland, they're feeling the exact same thing, and we're thinking if we don't have full teams, then England would be effectively, there would be no contest because they wouldn't have anybody to play against. So what we're basically doing is we're in conversation with those guys and we're just working through what we can do to make this the most feasible, workable and inclusive tournament we can. In terms of the 21 and under bracket, we were talking about, do we drop it now? Do we drop it in a year? How do we work this? And the decision that we've come to working with these other federations is that we want the people that were bowling before to stay with us. We want them to continue bowling and then move into adults. And so we think for this year, for 2022, we'll keep that older age section in. And what we'll do after that is that age categories and the format will be reviewed again for Youth Triple Crown for 2023. So, and then we've said already that the team will be selected in March of 2022 so that we've got updated rankings from the rolling rankings. And then I'll move back to Calvin for coaching.
Great, thanks. So, a quick rundown on kind of where we are with the coaching aspect. Over the last few years, we've been making a very hard transition over to the ETBF education program. I think we've been very successful in that so far. We now have almost every coach so far has went on to the program, and certainly had a lot of positive feedback from that. Just a quick rundown of how that looks. So there are 3 levels to the ETBF education program: level 1, level 2, and level 3. There will be a level 4 program coming out at some point, but that is still under work in progress with ETBF. And we are still going to continue with this going into the future for long term. There is some changes coming from ETBF with regards to which coaches are able to participate within European Federation tournaments. So you do now need to be a level 2 coach in order to be a coach in these European events like the European Youth Championships and the EMC, etc. So obviously we have a lot of work to do as a federation to bring that level up so that we have more level 2 coaches, that we have more participation in that field, and we can continue along with the progression, the natural progression that we've had so far, and continue along on our success in that journey. So as part of that, we are putting together a coach development workshop. James and I will be heavily involved within the development workshop. As you've seen there, we have that level 1, level 2, and level 3 that you will need to go through. And some of the reasons we want to do this development workshop is to provide that support for athletes through learning and achievements and the development of those athletes. We want to motivate and engage our athletes as best as possible, and that's why we want to focus our effort on ensuring coaching standards are at the level to encourage those people and encouragingly motivate those athletes throughout their entire career. We are seeing one of the challenges we face in many other federations is that retention of bowlers going through the ranks, and even into adults and even into seniors. So having motivating and engaging coaches is a massive aspect, and we want to thank all of our coaching team that's there at the moment for that. We are keen to foster the personal growth of our coaches and athletes, and we really want to help shape their character and create a positive attitude for them towards their sport and their academics. And so what we've done here is we put together a development workshop to capture those aims and those goals. The first stage in it is, as we would always have, is attending an ETBF coaching course, an ETBF coaching clinic, which we'll announce some of the upcoming workshops that we'll have soon. Once you've done that stage, you've went through the ETBF coaching clinic with James and myself, and potentially other ETBF coaches. You will then need to complete your minimum practical hours. Depending on which level you're at or which course you've taken, that will depend on the different number of hours. Once the minimum number of hours is complete, and it's not necessarily a hard and fast rule here that it's absolutely the case that you need to complete your minimal hours. I mean, you could have been a coach for many years, and you've been under that direction of an ETBF coach, and you have been following the ETBF program. You've been doing all those things. Really what we're looking for is a standard at the development workshop that we want to see and we want to look at and work towards. So the development workshop is effectively a place where coaches can come together to practice their skills in a real and safe environment, with potentially like another youth club, or even their own youth club. One of the things that we have seen is that when you're on an ETBF course or any coaching clinic, it's often a very unreal environment that you're trying to practice your skills in. Instead, what we're really more interested in is how you actually coach in your own surroundings with your own athletes. And so that development workshop is about giving that feedback right there and then to the coaches, working with a group of athletes on particular activities that they would be interested in, and then you would receive the feedback on that. And it's simply an exercise for you as coaches to be able to just say, yeah, I've met all the boxes effectively. After that, you'll receive your ETBF certification, and then you can move on in your progression as a coach to the next level, and going on to the next ETBF level. So with regards to the development workshop, we are expecting to have one in November, December this year, in preparation for clinics, level 1 and level 2 clinics in January and February next year. We're looking to have them this year, but times are a little bit tight. Getting centres and venues together, getting registrations out there is a little bit of a challenge. So we're looking to have this as early as possible in 2022, and put coaches through that. The exact details of how we're going to do this, it could be a joint workshop. We're just not quite sure the details on that, but we will have more information and registrations available for that if anybody is interested. Lastly is open coaching sessions. So out with the development of coaches, we also want to develop our athletes. And so open coaching sessions available to everybody will be in 2022, looking at summer of 2022, where you will be able to just attend a coaching workshop, and there will be coaches available on hand to work you through your progression, give you feedback, and also work on any difficulties that you have, and potentially some engaging topics of interest that we can discuss and share with everybody. Lastly, on the coaching side, we are extending our working partnership with the Singapore Bowling Federation. If you were unaware, the Singapore Bowling Federation did help the EMC team back before in 2019. So this is something we're looking to extend as well, and we are in talks with him about that. Furthermore, we're also in talks with it's called the Youth Symposium. The Youth Symposium is a networking group of European countries that are discussing how the future of youth bowling will look and how we can engage more with the youths to attract them into our sport, especially with the female bowlers as well. So last topic of the day before we kind of wrap up and open up the floor to questions. We've had incredible success with Give As You Live and Amazon Smile over the last couple of years as it's been available. I just want to remind people here about these two programs that we have and that we are available for people. Now, Scottish Tenpin Bowling is a charity organisation. One of our founding principles is that we are fostering the sport for all. And with your help through Give As You Live is effectively a free way of raising money for charities just by doing your regular shopping online. It's something you can just sign up to. There's a tutorial here. You can go to giveasyoulive.com or type in Give As You Live on Google, sign up for an account, and you can effectively browse the offers that they have. Click on something of interest for you. Maybe it's like you're buying a new laptop or something like that, and you're wanting to buy something from Curry's. You can click on that. It will take you to Curry's, and you just do your regular shopping there. Whatever purchase you make, the commercial shop will actually donate money on your behalf to a charity of your choice. Obviously, we hope you choose Scottish Tenpin Bowling as that charity, but of course there are other charities available. So that's something that you can do really, really easily without giving any money to us whatsoever. You're making the commercial organisations give a bit more to charity. And all of that money really helps us to be able to put on more events and give discounts for lots of things. One of those will be like an awards ceremony that we're hoping to have later on. The last thing is Amazon Smile. You can go to smile.amazon.co.uk. If you are a big fan of Amazon, like myself, you can just shop on Amazon through this link, choose your charity of choice, and Amazon will donate money on your behalf to the charity of your choice without you having to do anything. It is now available on mobile app as well. So in the mobile app, there is a section in the mobile where you can select that you want to donate using Amazon Smile, and it will do that for you. We've made it through. So big thank you to everybody for tuning in to the bulletin. Hope it's been very informative. Our Board of Representatives is now here to take your questions. So if there are a few ways of which you can do this, there is a chat available. Moira, can you see the chat?
I can see it, yes.
For some reason, I can't see it. I can't see any of the chats. So if there are any questions, please post your messages within the chat. Otherwise, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you if you would like to ask a question in person to us.
So there's a message just came in which says, does the under-25 tour contribute to any of the international tournaments? I'm happy to just take that one if you want. The answer to that is no at this time. The under-25 tour would be separate and it's not contributing towards ranking points or anything for the international tournament. Any more?
I think there was discussion, Stephen, of potentially using, what was it, maybe one or two adult tournaments as under-25 tour stops, but I think we'd be able to cover that.
Yeah,
like,
that will
as
be
Moira
true.
said, it covers it.
That will be true. There will be some events used next year for the adults, and the adult side to be used. The under 25s can be used towards adults. If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a question in from Alan Robertson. Can juniors do rankings and under 25s?
I think the answer to that is probably yes, because they shouldn't clash. So if you had anybody that was bowling the youth rankings, the dates of the under 25s are unlikely to clash with that, because we've got a bit of a crossover there with people that are, you know, maybe 15, 16, 17 that would want to bowl in the under 25s. So they shouldn't clash. So if they wanted to bowl both, absolutely they can. So there's one just came in, Stephen, I'll give this one to you. It's saying from Jack Kerr, what's the cut-off date for under 25s?
So the cut-off is 25 and under on the date of any of the tournaments that we run. So if you're 25, you can still play in it. If you are 26, then you can't play in it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Think so. Thumbs up came up there. Any more? So I've seen one from Billy coming in saying, can junior rankings start later? So travelling teams don't need hotel bookings. So I think, Billy, the answer to that is it depends on the venue. If we are in Murrayfield, Indoor Sports Club, or if we're in Ayr, then typically we've got the centre for the day and we can put on a second squad, and we would be able to then accommodate travellers to come down and travel on the day and come into the later squad. If we are, for example, in Stirling, where we've got the fun tournament, and typically in Dunfermline as well, they want us to give them the lanes back by lunchtime, and that's because the financial model in those centres is that that's where they've got their open play, that's where they make their money, and they would want us to be off the lanes. So in those centres, unfortunately, we would have one squad on potentially more than one day, and then they typically have to start fairly early in the morning so it can hand the lanes back. So in those ones then, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to offer that later squad for people that are travelling. We are hoping to use more centres this year, because there's 4 centres now that would then have the technology that we're looking for, with laying machines, etc. We're looking for that we can lay particular patterns, and so hopefully out of those 4 centres we'll have at least 2, maybe more, that we'd be able to accommodate a later squad in the day. But then we know that in Dunfermline and Stirling can't do that, so Hollywood Bowl would only give us lanes until lunchtime. Any other ones came in? I've kind of lost my...
Yeah, another question about the under 25 tournament. So if a youth plays in the under 25 tournament, would they gain youth ranking points? I think we can take this one. So given that the tournaments, the under 25 tour and the youth tournaments would run independently, that wouldn't be the case. That's not something that would be possible at this stage.
I guess so, Calvin. And sorry, I didn't really hear. I was reading one of the other messages, so I didn't really catch everything you said. But if that's one of the ones that's an adult tournament, then a youth can bowl that. Is that what you just said? Sorry if you did.
Yeah, so that's the exception, isn't it? if it does happen to be, for example, an adult tournament, there's absolutely that scope. Since it's aligning with an adult or a youth tournament, yes, if they're playing in that event, they would probably get both. That's right. So another question came in. Where can I get information on National League? I've heard about things. Have heard things about it, but have not officially heard anything from the board. James, would you like to take this question?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So the National League's basically still a work in progress. The registration part is available. The rules aren't fully written yet. It's basically for open to all bowlers, whether you're a member or not. It's open to any bowling centre, so it doesn't matter what kind of conditions the bowling centre has or anything like that. If you register a team, you can choose your bowling centre, and that's the centre you'll play your home matches in. So it's a home and away, centre v centre, almost like team v team. Like every team doesn't turn up on the day. It's not like the old National League where every team turned up in one day. There'll be like a 28-day window of when you can play your matches. It can be day, it can be night, it can be like any time you like. It's up to the team captains to decide when they play. But yes, there'll be more information coming out shortly on how that's actually going to run. There's quite a lot of interest, especially from the Murrayfield area. I know Ayr has 2 or 3 teams ready to put their names down as well. So hopefully we get teams from like the not so popular centres, so we can get back in there and try their league conditions and get that team atmosphere going. And also the main thing is it's open to non-members as well. So as the charity organisation, we're fulfilling one of our fulfilling our constitution, basically, to say that we are opening the bowling to everybody, basically. So it's not just a member thing; anyone can join in, and that's basically what it is. It's just a league where we're encouraging team bowling. Basically, anyone can play. That's it. I apologize.
Couple other ones there. So how do you register if you don't bowl in a centre in Scotland? So how would you do that, James?
So basically, for example, if Joe Bloggs said, I want to register a team, it could be they could live, for example, in Carlisle, for example. They've got the team of 3. They could say, this is our team of 3, and our home centre is going to be Dunfermline, for example. So that means that they register their team, they confirm with the bowling centre they can play out there, and that will be then registered. Or for example, they could say, this is our team. We're going to bowl like Stirling, for example. So basically, on the registration, you'll pick your team. This is our team. This is our averages. This is the centre we want to bowl from. And that's basically, it's as simple as that, basically. So you may have several teams bowling out of one bowling centre, but they don't all bowl on the same day. We are trying to keep it very central belt. So, for example, we are looking at making a Highland version of this. We would not accept, for example, if a team puts in as a home centre of Inverness, and that's the only one team. Unfortunately, that would not be doable, because it's not fair to ask teams to travel from the central belt up north. So we'll try to get a Highland version of it, rather than try to make it a whole of Scotland type thing. So it's basically central belt. We're going to try and get a Highland version of it. It's division divisions, so there'd be a maximum of 66 teams in a division, minimum of 4. The divisions will be basically made for the first season on total team average. So that'll be how the teams are separated into their divisions, and then from there onwards, basically, there'll be promotion and relegation. So after the first season, if a team joins the league, they will start in the bottom division, regardless of their ability, basically. And the idea is to get like a Swedish type format where we have that competition of team versus team, centre versus centre, shop versus shop, or whatever you want to call it, and a bit of camaraderie between bowling centres, and basically bring bowling back to what it used to be, like a team travelling, a good team game, basically. And also, if you look at the last National League, we had, even though we got rid of it, it was actually quite a successful league, actually. We had bowlers that bowled in the National League that did not bowl in any ranking tournaments. And when we stopped the National League, we lost a lot of these bowlers because they're not interested in ranking tournaments. They're not interested in playing for Scotland. They just want to have a fun game of bowling. So basically, the National League is more towards these guys who just want to have a bit of fun with their teammates, play against another team, give all the high fives and stuff, then go home, smile on their face. It's a cheaper way of bowling. It's a bit, like, for me personally, it's a better way of bowling, and that's what bowling should be about. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few questions that's coming in with regards to National League. This certainly the sort of rules will need to be finalised. They will be available, right, James? Or, like, I think we're working through those, and they will be. We'll be putting them up on the website. We have a National League page there as a template. You can go into the website. It is just simply a placeholder at the moment, waiting for us to put the information there. And so we're just kind of working through those things. So I totally understand what you're saying there about reading the rules before signing up.
Yeah.
And so we'll get that. We'll get that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big questions I've had is about the registration fee of the National League, and just to let you all know what it is. Basically, the registration fee covers all your prize fund for the whole league. It may be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depending on the size of that division. But it will certainly cover the whole prize fund of that league. So what that does is that covers if someone doesn't turn up for a match, or blah blah blah. And it also means that when you go to the bowling centre, all you need to do is pay the centre their lineage. All the rest of the fees are covered. It's all done. It saves a lot of confusion backwards and forwards that way. So the registration fee is basically covers your prize fund, like for trophies or prize money, or however we decide to reward league champions, basically.
Yeah. Question in from Jack about is there a way to get notifications when the website is updated? At the moment, no. There's not something like an RSS feed for that. However, whenever we update the web page, we normally update on multiple channels. So we would normally send out an email through our mailing list, and we would normally send create a post on our Facebook page. So you'll probably receive a notification in that respect, and it would normally point to the website for you. So I don't think it's necessary at the moment to kind of have regular checks on the website. We can kind of sort that out. No, the STBA website is not available on an app. There is a mobile-friendly version of the site, though, so you can go to bowling.scot on your phone, and you are able to do that. But there's not an app for it yet. And to be honest, it would be it would be a great expense for us to be able to invest in an app. If there are any software developers out there, please you're welcome to contribute. Yes, send us your details and we can add you to the mailing list. Yeah. The presentation for this will be available afterwards. It will be available on the website. We will put it there. It will be a link for a downloadable version of that. After that, you are able to print this out. It'll also be available within YouTube as well. Any other final questions? No. Well, we are always approachable. You know where to find us, board@bowling.scot. And we also have our own emails as well. So please get in touch if you do have any questions about anything at all. Otherwise, thank you for joining and have a good night.
Thanks very much. See you all later.
Bye.